The SP 500 and the Nasdaq 100. We're talking about exactly what happened on the day. We had some big pops on certain sectors on the market. We had to believe that was some short covering based on some technical levels. We had some jobs data, and then we have PPI coming out tomorrow. So a little bit of stuff happening here on the market. But when we look at really where we're at on the past month, there's not been too much. Now, I posted this earlier of this is the main level. I posted this on Twitter. The link is down below. But this is the main level you're watching on ES, basically this 39.20, 39 flat range. Previous highs here, previous lows, and you're coming in and you're just holding this level, right? So when we zoom in, this is where a bulk of basically the support is. If this level loses, we've talked about what's going to happen, and it gets pretty bad. If we go into Nasdaq, we can look here, obviously, and also, and you can see a little bit more. It looks really similar also, but it's about down to this like 1144 area. Again, these are areas we mentioned. I didn't make a video yesterday. I had some stuff coming up, but overall we're back. So I want to talk about where we're at and kind of how we're moving. And again, today, really, there wasn't much happening. If I go into SPY and I show you, again, very flat day. We're still breaking out of this kind of trend that we had, a little bit of a wedge, but you're still just holding down basically where the day started. We opened up the day around 395 and we're ending the day right at around 395. So before we get into that content, I have to ask you to consider doing two things: liking and subscribing. I post videos for you every single day, so you are prepared on this market and you know exactly what is going on. Let's get to it. So again, I'm not going to keep you for too long specifically on this video. There's not too much to talk about, but I definitely wanted to give you guys an update. So if we look at what's happening on the day, where's the bulk of where, we're getting volume? It's 395. I do want to talk a little bit about volume though on the day. So something that's different on today is this line represents 395, and you can see we'll push up, but anytime a little bit of seller steps in with any type of volume, we push back down. We'll push back up. Any type of volume, we'll push right back down. We literally had like 8 tests of 395 on the day. It was eventful in that sense, but everything else very lackluster. And I want to tell you right now, if you don't even watch the rest of the video, I'm not going to make you sit here and go over some of this stuff. I think there's helpful stuff in here, but I'm going to tell you, I don't think you're going to get a good move on the market, simply put, until next Tuesday, next Wednesday. You have CPI next Tuesday, and then Wednesday you have your Fed meeting and rate decision. That's going to be your big decision. Now, we're going to chop back and forth in the current range that we're sitting in, and I'm going to go over that for you, but don't expect true follow-through until that happens. Now, again, it was strange that we are getting this downside push. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. It's strange that we're getting it. Once we got below 200, it may, of course, we expect more downside, but ultimately, it was strange that we got it with the blackout period, and I believe we're still seeing, downside consolidation. We're just kind of trending sideways, doing nothing here on the day. So I don't think there's any reason to get too bullish or too anything here, because anytime we get any pressure, even here to the end of the day, we push up and then we sell back off, and now we're getting a little bit more of a push. So it's just again and again, just repeating the same thing. Also looking at the day, we still have the after hours to come, but giving you a quick refresh here. Your volume's pretty lackluster, 50 million on the day. I would assume top in it comes out maybe near 60, but it's most likely going to end around 57, 56 on the low end of the spectrum of what's happening with volume. So your volume is also decreasing. It's worth mentioning that your volume is really decreasing as you get a bump up on the day or a little bit of love on the market. So again, not loving that. I think there's very little momentum with buyers right now. Specifically, I do want to tell you that. I do want to warn you. So that's what I'm looking at here. So going into tomorrow, going into basically into Tuesday of next week, I have to anticipate this low continues to hold around 391, 390. And the top end is about $400, maybe 402, 403. That's the absolute high here. But if we really look at how we've trended for the last month, going all the way back to November 10th, you haven't moved. If we look at the real price action coming in here, nothing's happening. There's no real bullish behavior to the upside since the beginning of November. We've just been trending and chopping and chopping, and this is really what kills people's accounts. I'm going to go over some stocks I'm liking and looking at, but when you're looking at this, it's just very concerning overall. So I don't want people to get too invested in going deep on calls, going deep on puts. There's not too much interest here, and if someone's telling you something's going to happen tomorrow or the next day, they're probably just lying to you. Again, I'm trying to be transparent as possible with you guys. I don't see a big convincing move happening on the market until Tuesday, and Wednesday, because CPI is Tuesday, Wednesday is your Fed rate decision. So that's going to be the biggest thing there, and you have your Fed meeting. So that's what you're going to look forward there. But going into Friday, I would have to say, gun to my head, have to pick a decision. I anticipate we're going to try to hold this 395 area as long as PPI does go well. It's worth mentioning, I mentioned that there are some stocks I'm looking at. We do have Costco earnings today on the after hours. Now, I will say they basically announced all preliminary earnings and they anticipate it to be terrible. There's also some insider selling happening here. So I do want to highlight, I don't have the highest hopes, but I think this sector is going to be very volatile. So I think going into tomorrow, if Costco does print some good earnings and they have a bounce back here, I'm going to tell you right now, I think Costco, Walmart, Target have upside potential. I talked about shorting Walmart and I said going into earnings on Costco was your best bet. Looking at Walmart right now, just keeps coming down. You're sitting at, 148. Again, earnings, we don't know what's going to happen. We've seen them give out terrible preliminary, and now you're kind of just kicking the can down the road. So again, not too much I'm loving here, but I do want to say that I see the potential, if Costco comes out good, that we could see Target, Walmart have some love, specifically in that XLP sector. Now, I do want to talk about a trade that I had. It was NVIDIA, and I had to cut that early this morning when you broke out of this range. I ended up cutting around like 163.5. Now, I was up over about 2,000, but my big play here, again, I have swings and I have some scalps I look at. NVIDIA was a swing for me. I'm going to explain real quick. You broke out of this trend that you ran. You broke to the downside. You had a retest and kept pushing down. It was looking really good. And so I was playing for the break of 155. We never got the 155 test. We came down to the 156.6. At that point, I was up like 2.2K. But again, I always try to be transparent for you guys so you guys know exactly, what to expect when you come here on the channel. Winners, losers, everything in between. I don't want to, ever mislead anybody. This isn't a get-rich-quick scheme. So I do want to post. I did end up losing on NVIDIA because I ended up holding it. 706 was a loss there. Wasn't a huge loss by any means, and I could have taken profits at 2,000, but again, it was a swing trade for me. I had all the way into January, so I wanted to play that big downside potential. Once you get back over 163.5, I believe shorts that were, stacking in down here decided to get out and to cover that short-term position, which led to this just going ballistic. And again, if you want to see my thesis on that, I think it plays out because when we look at AMD just held down here near lows. You can go into TSM also. Got a little bit of a move to the upside, but nothing incredible. QCOM, very similar type of action. Upside move, but nothing incredible. NVIDIA had a bulk of that move. NVIDIA pushing to new local highs, obviously, right now, too. So that makes me believe that there's probably some short covering. And again, I'm not looking to get in short right now. I'd have to see it make a new overall lower low. I would have to see that before winning into puts on NVIDIA. And if that does happen again, I think it's a great potential play for the downside. But again, that was just a play. That's sometimes the way it goes. You have to understand your risk to reward. And if it would have broke 155, there was no doubt in my mind this thing would have collapsed and I would have made over 150% on that trade. But again, I was prepared for it. I knew what I was willing to lose. And that was my trade. I think there's a lot you can learn from that. But I'm going to tell you right now, when you go into a trade, understand what you're willing to lose, understand what you're looking to make. I had a clear plan, and so when I cut, it was okay. And when I look back at this, it was an awesome cut, because guess what? You just kept going up. So things could have really turned out for the worst there. Going into the rest of the market also, if I had to highlight the strongest part of the market, I'm going to tell you right now, it's again Chinese stocks, BABA, YY, Pinduoduo. Those are going to be very strong names probably moving forward. Right now, China's in talks of getting their mass mandate basically nullified. And if this happens, I'm going to tell you right now, Chinese stocks will boom. BABA being probably the best name out there right now. I do want everyone to know that. Again, even though I'm looking at downside potentially because we are below that 200 moving average on the ES, I still think BABA and Chinese stocks have room for potential upside based on what's happening in China. So that's more of a fundamental viewpoint. And again, I can see it's going up to 98, maybe 100 here on BABA. So keep it on your watch list all day long. You've been kind of just trending towards that upside too when we look here, and you're finally trying to break that local high. So again, any type of move up with SPY tomorrow, I think Chinese stocks can easily hold that upside. Even with the downside that we saw on SPY today on some points of time, BABA continued to make these higher lows throughout the day. So that was a good note to take from there. Again, I want to say right now, before you even go any further in the video, SPY's movement is going to be a bit sporadic. over the next 2 days, roughly from basically tomorrow, which is Friday, going into Monday. I think it can be all up in the air. But CPI will give you a clear direction going into the Fed meeting. If CPI reports very good, which if PPI reports good, I would anticipate CPI does pretty well. If it reports a good also, I do think jobs data could definitely reaffirm a good outlook from the Fed meeting. I'm just going to tell you that right now because basically everything would be going as planned. And the jobs data today was also pretty beneficial and turned out pretty good also. So these are all things to be looking forward to from a fundamental standpoint. Going a little bit further, I do want to talk a little bit about Tesla. Tesla came and filled the gap down here. I also want to mention some of the downside pressures you were seeing here specifically on Tesla. I believe it's had a lot to do with what was happening around the rumors about their debt. There's specific rumors coming in with the banks that Tesla has a lot of their loans with, currently with Musk, and they're saying that they would have to open those up to getting a higher rate to with what you're seeing more as normal in the market right now. Now, again, these were just rumors, but we saw the immediate sell side effects because obviously getting restructured debt at these rates would be detrimental, but we saw Tesla come fill the gap, and it seems like it was more of a sell the rumor type thing, and then you bought right back up. So Tesla, where am I looking at this to go? If you can break local highs around 175, I'm looking towards 177, but ultimately a retest of the 181.5. That was that major level. What happened once we broke it previously? We broke down through it. We came up, almost retested it to 180.7, give or take, and then shot back down. So these are key areas looking to test and get a retest on specifically. So again, there's not things that I'm really loving here, but the best area to be watching right now, again, in my opinion, is going to be 1, Chinese stocks, and 2, XLP. Because if XLP can give us a surprise, and then I believe China also, those are 2 sectors that I think can thrive or at least hold their value, even with some short-term sell side effects on the SPY. So this is definitely going to be big. However, what I will say, if we have bad earnings from Costco, we have bad outlooks from that overall XLP sector, I will say this right now. XLP has tended to lead the market when it comes to inflation data. So if XLP starts to hurt, we see XLP and those prices rise of cost of goods, which is a big concern with Costco. I think this could really hurt the economy and set the tone for CPI and PPI going forward also. That would be very detrimental, and that would be very big kind of sign going into next Wednesday also. Not a long video today, but I wanted to get this out for you. If you have questions, comment down below. I'll see you tomorrow.